Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. It's Wednesday, September 24, 2025, and the time is 2:32 p.m. I call the meeting of Committee on Housing, Homelessness, and Parks to order. Welcome to committee members who are present in the chamber today, Councilmember Tolba, Councilmember Nishimoto, and Councilmember Okimoto. Thank you so much for being here. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution, Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, member of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time may be necessary, will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium and state your name for the record. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify after the registered testifiers. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, please unmute your audio and press *6 when prompted. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at a remote meeting be conducted by roll call unless a unanimous vote. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please silence all your cell phones during the duration of this meeting. Thank you so much. Committee members, let's go to agenda item number 1, Resolution 25-241. This resolution confirms the appointment of Charles Mitsui to serve on the Board of Parks and Recreation of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on December 31st, 2027. I do believe he is here with us. Perfect. Mr. Mitsui, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Chuck Mitsui, and I'm looking forward to being part of the Parks Department and hoping to kind of find pathways for community projects to get to completion.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do testimony and then we'll have questions from the council members. Clerks, are there any in-person registered testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Are there any in-person non-registered testifiers that would like to testify at this time? Seeing none. Clerks, are there any online registered testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Are there any unregistered online testifiers wishing to testify on this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, council members, any questions for Mr. Mitsui? Could you give us maybe a one-liner of your background and why you want to be on the board?
Sure. I started the Association of Skateboarders in Hawaii in 1996, and through that association, we helped develop skate parks on Oahu. I worked with Mayor Harris's administration in the early 2000s, late 90s to develop a skate park committee, which was successful in developing 9 skate parks. I'm hoping we can kind of return to that structure, create a committee that will help facilitate the building of skate parks again. It's been a long time since we've had a consistent rollout of new facilities, and the community is very much in favor of seeing these in the parks.
In your opinion, how many more skate parks should we have on this island?
Currently, Kahuku is developing one. Wahiwa is developing one. There's interest for mixed-use parks, so pump tracks, which are BMX, bike, scooter, inline, and quad skating. Those parks are even more popular, I would say, than the skate parks in general. So Hawaii Kai is wanting that. Waimanalo is developing one currently. And I talked to Augie about one development in Eva Beach that looks like it could move forward. So there's a lot of projects out there, and I'm hopeful that we can create this committee to have people in the community come together and say, hey, we want this, we haven't been heard yet, and then we can help them develop the pathway to getting their parks to completion.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your efforts. It sounds like you have a lot of background knowledge that we could really use.
Yeah, I'm hopeful I can help out and make the parks more usable, especially for the teens.
Thank you, Mr. Mitsui. Okay, council members, we're in discussion. Any objections, any reservations? Seeing none, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-241 be reported out for adoption. So ordered. Okay, committee members, we're going to take all the gifts together. So items number 2 through 5. I'll be reading all the items and then I'll have the Department of Parks comment. Agenda item number 2, Resolution 25-250. This resolution accepts a gift to the city from Lorette Wilkie of one cook pine tree valued at $3,000 to be used for the 2025 Honolulu City Light event at Honolulu Hale. Agenda item number 3, Resolution 25-251. This resolution accepts a monetary gift to the city in the amount of $4,000 from Hawaii Medical Service Association to be used to offset the cost of the 2025 Mayor's Craft and Country Fair event held on November 22nd, 2025 at the Neo Blaisdell Center Exhibition Hall. Agenda item number 4, Resolution 25-252. This resolution accepts a gift to the city from Donkey Kapolei of one Hoshikizaki ice maker with ice storage bin valued at $3,000 to be used at Moanalua Community Park. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda proposed CD1 to the resolution identified as OCS 2025-0756-9-18-2025, 2:47 p.m., and the summary of the amendments was also posted. Lastly, agenda item number 5, Resolution 25-225. This resolution accepts a gift to the city from Chelsea Louis of one cook pine tree valued at $3,000 to be used as the main tree for the 2025 Kapolei City Lights event at Kapolei Hale. With us, we have Director Laura Thielen.
Good afternoon, council members. Laura Thielen on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation. I can tell that you're a professional singer with your lung capacity as you're reading this out. So the department is very grateful for the various generous organizations and individuals who are making the donations. We have the 2 cook pines for Honolulu City Lights as well as Kapolei City Lights, the Don Quixote Ice Machine, the HMSA, which has been a longtime supporter of the Mayor's Craft Fair, which we hope you guys can all join for the senior kupuna clubs that takes place at the Blaisdell. So we are very grateful for the gifts and hope that you folks support it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, are there any testimonies on registered testifiers for agenda item number 2 through 5?
Chair, there are none.
Clerks, are there any unregistered testifiers for agenda item number 2 through 5 that are here that want to speak? Okay, clerks, are there any online testifiers for agenda item number 2 through 5?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. With that being said, council members, is there any discussion on these items? All right, I'm going to take them one by one so we can take the vote. On Resolution 25-250, the chair recommends that it be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 3, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-251 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Seeing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 4, the chair recommends that the resolution be amended to a CD1 as posted on OCS website. Are there any objections, reservations? If not, the chair recommends that we pass Resolution 25-252 CD1. Are there any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Lastly, agenda item number 5. The chair recommends that Resolution 25-255 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. We want to thank all of the individuals that donate to our parks. We're so very, very grateful for all of what you do to help us execute and deliver exciting and community-related events at our parks. Thank you, Director, for being here. I appreciate it. All right, Chair, let's move on to agenda item number 6, Bill 39, 2025. This bill addresses fire-resistant rated construction and requirements for affordable rental housing projects and amends Chapter 32 of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 to the bill submitted by Councilmember Weyer, identified as OCS 2025-0694/9/10/2025, 10:45 a.m., and a summary of the amendments was also posted. With us, we have Deputy Director Brian Gallagher, Department of Planning and Permitting.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Brian Gallagher, Deputy Director, DPP. We wanted to thank the Council for this version. We didn't have any comments, and we're okay with this moving forward.
Thank you so much. For the introducer of the bill, if you wanted to take any questions or have any comments about the CD? We're going to be going with his second CD that he submitted. Go ahead, Councilmember Weyer.
Thank you, Chair. And really just, we'll defer to the posted language. And so wanted the Mahalo Department and the stakeholders that have participated on this, and of course, Chair for facilitating and moving the conversation along. And I'm definitely hopeful that we're going to see a lot of movement with the work that the council as a whole has done on the urban infill projects. And so I know that's just one part of our greater housing policy to address our housing crisis, but really appreciate all the work that's gone in. So mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Weyer, for your suggestion and this proposed bill. Right now, we'll take testimony from the public. Clerks, are there any registered in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Are there any unregistered in-person testifiers that would like to testify on this item? Seeing none. Clerks, are there any online registered testifiers?
Yes, Chair, we have Gina Thielen.
Yay! Aloha!
Aloha, Chair Tupola, members of the committee. My name is Gina Thielen. I'm here to testify in support of Bill 39. I'll stand on written testimony and just be available to answer any questions if there are some.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thielen. Clerks, are there any other registered or unregistered online testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Moving to discussion. Council members, is there any discussion on this proposed bill? Okay, seeing none. The chair recommends that we amend Bill 39 to the posted proposed CD1 as identified. I don't know the exact number. Oh, yes, as identified OCS 2025-0694/9/10/2025 at 10:45 a.m. Are there any objections or reservation to amending the bill to a CD1? Seeing none, the chair recommends that Bill 39 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you very much, committee. We're going to move to agenda item number 7, informational briefing. We're going to discuss the launching of the City and County of Honolulu's 3-year Child Care Action Plan. Members, here with us today, we have Jordana Ferreira from the Department of Community Services, who will be providing us with a brief presentation. You will find a copy of the presentation in your committee binder under the tab 7. It is also available online as Departmental Communication D695. Jordana, take it away.
Committee Chair and Committee Vice Chair and Council members, Anton Krucke, the Director of Department of Community Services. I just wanted to put some context to this presentation that you're seeing. It was 2.5 years ago that the mayor decided that he would fulfill the Chapter 11, Section 1 of the charter that for the city to focus on childcare, really with a theme that we chose, which was accessibility and affordability. So that was 2.5 years ago. The department hired a consultant that for 1 year we kind of studied the landscape. And at that point in time, only 1.5 years ago, we hired Jordana, who you'll hear speak today. That's a really short amount of time for you to see an action plan put in front of you that already has actionable items and substantial items in place to bring more childcare to the island. So I think this has really been a fulfillment of the mayor in this chapter with your support, which we really appreciate, and you're gonna see the results of your efforts and the administration's efforts. So with that, I'd like to have Jordana come and present. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Krucke. Aloha, Chair Tupola. Aloha, Vice Chair Toba. Aloha, Council members Nishimoto, Weyer, and Okimoto. Thank you so much, first off, for the opportunity to present this action plan in front of you all today. I am really excited to share this. Really briefly, I want to share a little bit about my excitement. I grew up in Waianae, and as a kid, like many other kids in the state, I was told that opportunity, if I wanted any, I would need to leave. Not just to leave Waianae, but to leave Hawaii entirely. And I believed that for a bit, so I left. And what I discovered when I left was that everything that I needed to know in order to capitalize on any opportunity I took, I learned here at home. And that's why I wanted to come back home, because I understand that it is difficult to live in Hawaii. I understand that the high cost of living causes huge financial strains to our families. And I also understand that for families with children, that strain is even bigger. There's no place else I want to live but Oahu. There's no place else I'd want to raise my family. And I know that many of you here also agree with that as well. But we do know that for too many families, that is very difficult and more difficult than it needs to be. So I want to assure you that I stand here in front of you today very humbly to share the work that we are doing and the plan that we've implemented so that our families can thrive, not just survive here on Oahu. So again, mahalo for the time. Okay. So I know, we all know that our families in Hawaii work really, really hard. And we all have a lot of direct experience with the financial strains and the high cost of living that our residents deal with on a daily basis. It's very encouraging that in the past year, we've seen a slight decrease in the levels of poverty, but ALICE households remain steady at 29%. If you have children in your household, though, that number jumps to 50%. So I just want to repeat that one more time because it's a very difficult data point to digest. For our families that are living in Hawaii who have children in the household, 50% of them fall under the ALICE threshold. Childcare is the third highest expense in a household budget after only housing and food. If you have more than one child under the age of 5, then those expenses can exceed any other expense in your budget. We also know that access is extremely difficult. 50% of our children under the age of 5 don't have access to childcare, and for children under the age of 3, that gap balloons to 90%. But the benefits are huge. Supporting our youngest keiki is one of the best investments we can make. Research time and again demonstrates that those children who attend quality early learning programs yield tremendous benefits. They're more likely to graduate from high school, they're more likely to attain higher educational attainment, they're more likely to secure better paying jobs, and they are also more likely to become homeowners later on in life. It also benefits the economy in a huge significant way. Conservative estimates project that for every dollar we invest in young children, we see a $7 in returns. If we're focusing on younger kids, that actually jumps to $12. The childcare industry also generates $206 million of revenue every year in Hawaii, and it supports the sustenance of nearly 6,500 jobs. The Chamber of Commerce here in Hawaii commissioned the study, and what they found is that the losses are also huge when childcare falls short. So when families have issues with difficulty or accessing childcare, we can see a $1.18 billion loss to revenue here in Hawaii. Okay, thank you. This is why this action plan is really important. I'm very proud of the city's long history supporting childcare. The city has been a leader in supporting childcare initiatives since 1967. The city had funded childcare demonstration projects in the Waianae and Kalihipalama communities. And then 40 years ago, we opened the doors to the Early Education Center, which we still operate today. It's the first ever and still the only city-constructed childcare facility in the state. So I am incredibly honored to present this action plan today in 2025. I just want to set the context a little bit for the plan. This is a community-driven city plan. So what we mean by that is we engage stakeholders extensively in the first year in developing this plan. We connected with childcare providers and early childhood professionals, we connected with families, and we connected with other colleagues in the city and other community stakeholders, and also yourselves. So mahalo to all of you that were able to attend our talk story sessions we hosted last year, or for providing feedback directly from your constituents. Through that stakeholder engagement, we developed 4 goals. So I'm not gonna detail all of the activities in there, but I do wanna highlight those 4 overarching goals. The first is bolstering Oahu's childcare workforce. And we intentionally place that as first because we believe that this will have the biggest impact to the industry. In 1989, there was a national study conducted that found that childcare workforce was more educated than half of the American workforce, but they were being paid wages in the lowest 2nd to 3rd percentile. That study was conducted again in 2011 with the same results. I was born in 1989, and then I graduated from college in 2011. So by the time I grew up, the results were still the same. So this is a field that is plagued by low compensation despite the fact that we require high qualifications, which is very important because it is not easy to raise children, it is not easy to care for children, and to make sure that we're providing a strong foundation for our future generation. The second goal is expanding affordable options for families. So we are laying the groundwork to create new childcare facilities and ensure that those facilities, once in operation, can charge affordable rates for families. The third is to empower families to make informed choices so that they can better access and navigate early childhood services. So we're deploying a bunch of different strategies, like a marketing media campaign. We're providing on-site interpreters at outreach events so that we can assist families where they're at to better navigate programs and services that are available to them. And then the last but also equally important goal is building the city's infrastructure. We understand that whatever work we implement today, we want to be able to ensure that we can sustain that for tomorrow. Each of our goals are coupled with outcomes and metrics, and this was very important for us because this plan is not just about action, but real impact. And the only way we can do that is by making sure we are holding ourselves accountable and tracking progress. So those outcomes and metrics detail a lot of data that we will be using to ensure that we're making progress, and if we're not, that we're course correcting when we can. I understand deeply that I'm a government representative, and that is my duty to responsibly and effectively use taxpayer dollars, and we do that by making sure that we're using data to inform our decisions, and again, to course correct if things aren't working out the way we planned. So again, I'm not going to detail the activities in the plan, but happy to answer any questions. What I do want to share under each bucket is the work that we are doing as it relates to each activity that's already underway. So as I mentioned earlier, supporting the workforce is one of our biggest focus areas with the most impact. With our childcare construction plans alone, which I'll detail in the next slide, we will need to see at least 65 more early childhood professionals for each facility in order to meet that demand. So we are working with other partners within the city and the states and other community stakeholders to plan industry job fairs so that we can recruit more individuals. And I want to also thank the council, I think this is a really important one, for amending the land use ordinance as it related to home-based childcare providers. Those amendments allowed us to lessen some of the regulations associated with employment. Oahu was the only county that restricted home-based providers from being able to hire staff from outside of their household. And so with this change, they can now add up to one additional person that does not live in the household as a staff member. So this is huge. This has really huge implications. This feedback came directly from our home-based providers who serve some of our youngest children and offer some of the most affordable rates for our families. So now they are able to hire more staff so that they can take care of more children in a better quality, safer way. So again, mahalo to you all for supporting the passage of that amendment. And then I also want to quickly call out the bullet point about supporting the apprenticeship grant program. So we have a community-based organization, Keikioka Aina, who worked with Honolulu Community College to launch our first ever early learning apprenticeship program. It is a true apprenticeship model that has been developed and designed with the DHS childcare licensing standards. It's a great program, and we have a lot of directors who are interested in participating. So we have been committed to helping find funding sources from the federal government or other funding partners to be able to help sustain and expand that program. So your support for my position and our staff in increasing the city's capacity to take on this work has allowed us to not just position the city to be able to apply for more funding opportunities, but also to help local nonprofit organizations and our other partners to be able to apply for grants or other opportunities to help expand this work. Okay, and we're also working really hard to replicate our early education center model. So many of you know that the city constructed this facility in 1986, and it currently has a licensing capacity for 264 children, which is the largest facility in the state. We also know that about 25% of the children that are enrolled in the facility are actually children of employees of the city. So it's a huge benefit for us here at the city, but also for the general public. So we want to expand this. This model is a true effective public-private partnerships. So we built the facility and we offer a very under market value rate to the provider, who then is able to charge an affordable rate to families that is under the child care tuition market rate. So we are currently working with the state, the School Facilities Authority. We have 2 parcels that have been deeded over to the city. One is in Cunha and one is in Eva Beach. And the state has appropriated funding for the construction of childcare facilities. So our partnership with the state will allow us to construct those buildings, 2 childcare facilities, and then their plan is to turn it back over to us so that we can manage the contractual operations for the program. Okay, so we've already executed the ROE, the right of entry with the state. So they have already begun the design and planning phase, and we are hoping to move into the construction phase next year. So again, the model that we're using and working on our partnership with the state allows the city to net zero. We don't pay for anything in this model. The state will take on the CIP construction costs, and then the operator will manage the contractual operations as it relates to childcare services. It also saves the state money, right? So none of us are operating. We save a lot of money operational costs, which is the bulkiest cost, and it needs to be maintained long-term. Having the state construct also shaves off about a year from construction timeline versus if the city were to do it. And these facilities will be able to allow us to increase capacity by at least 350 more slots. And I just want to point out that that picture is actually a legitimate design plan. That is a design plan for the EVA facility. So it will be a 2-story childcare facility so that we can maximize space. And then we're incorporating natural outdoor play spaces for children to have a better learning experience. Okay, and then goal 3 is focus on our families. So again, we know that despite the importance of and the need for childcare, it's very difficult for families to access. With some federal funding grants that we were able to secure, we recently deployed a survey to families who have young children. And in just a few short months, we were able to collect now almost 600 survey results. So I just wanted to pull out some of the results that were very astounding. Majority of families understand the importance of early learning, and majority of families view childcare as a very important component of building a strong foundation for their children. We know that families know that this is important and want to support their children's growth and development as early as possible. Despite that, though, 70% of families on Oahu believe that current childcare options are not enough, and almost 60% of our families have worried about childcare every single day. So this is why building the city's infrastructure has been really important. So again, I want to thank you all for your leadership and your partnership in this work. We now have 3 FTE employees. When I first started, it was just me. So we've expanded a little bit, and our 3 staff have been able to deploy initiatives for some funding that we secured. We secured almost $700,000 of federal funds that have been able to allow us to do a lot of different work. I do want to share that 76% of the funds that we have secured are going directly to nonprofit organizations. These local nonprofit organizations will be deploying a lot of the services for us on the city level. So just to quickly share, these contracts are helping us broaden our homeless initiatives. So we will be co-locating early childhood services at a couple of our family assessment centers. So the Hō'ula FAC and the Wahewa FAC will now have housing, support financial services, as well as early childhood services to provide more robust whole family programs and services. We'll also be launching a business acumen cohort specifically for childcare providers. So I'm excited to officially announce that we'll be launching this within the next month. A community-based organization will be enrolling childcare businesses, and they will have an opportunity to network with each other and other industry experts so they can enhance their business acumen skills such as marketing, financial literacy, grant writing, so on and so forth, so that they can enhance their business capacity to be able to sustain childcare operations. We're also going to be deploying an Oahu-specific media campaign to share more information about early childhood services for families here locally on the island. We're also going to be posting a professional learning opportunity for our Department of Parks and Rec staff. They're very excited to learn more about early childhood, play, and developmentally appropriate recreational activities. And our long-term vision is for DPR to be able to host more rec activities specifically for young children and their families. And then we'll be hosting outreach events and providing interpreters on site. So we'll be sure to invite you folks when we start to schedule those outreach events in your district. Okay, so again, mahalo for the time and the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ferreira. Council members, any questions for the presenter? Okay, I have a few if that's okay. Yeah, perfect. Inside of our binders, we have the actual plan, so I see the slides. So just for the public's information, this plan can be found on your website?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so I apologize if people can't see it, but it's called the City and County of Honolulu Action Care Plan 2025 through 2028. So I'm going to give you some notes on this that maybe we can discuss later. On goal 1, where you said you're going to host industry job fairs and create apprenticeship grant programs, are you doing that with Work Hawaii or
Yes,
with
correct.
OER?
Yes, both.
Okay, thank you. Also, are you familiar with the policy in revised ordinances of Honolulu that depicts what your office should be doing? There's about 13 initiatives that it outlines that you guys should cover.
Chapter 11? Correct.
So I think the ones we're missing is number 3 and number 11. Number 3 says that we should be a model employer of childcare. So one of the things we're talking about with HPD is offering stipends for childcare or having at least areas near the stations where officers can utilize childcare that need it. Is there any intention for you guys to incorporate that into your plan? Because I think the goal of creating this office was to help city employees access early childhood care, and I'm not sure where that is in your plan.
Yeah, great question. So similar to the EEC model, prioritization is given to city employees, and we plan to do the same for any childcare facility that gets constructed in the future. So we still will require the operator to prioritize the enrollment of the children of city employees. And yes, our intention is we are working closely with HPD on this project and with our colleagues at CORE as well to see what's possible to expand how we might be able to better support employees of the city.
So when you say prioritize, you mean that their applications are taken before others, or you mean their tuition is less?
Applications are, so when they submit their application, they get priority enrollment.
Have you guys surveyed the city employees at all and asked them if they think that having stipends or some type of financial support would be advantageous for their department?
No, we haven't deployed surveys to employees.
Yeah, I think it'd be good because I think you guys have done community surveys, but I would really like to know within our city employees, how many city employees struggle with childcare so that we can, really this whole office was created for that, to help our city employees be able to come to work, have their kids taken care of. On page 6, it says you guys are going to host application workshops. Are you guys working with the the early learning office at the state for this?
So that's the outreach events we'll be hosting. So that will be to encourage families to apply for different programs and services and navigate the application process.
And then you say collaborate with Department of Planning and Permitting to create an outreach program to help. So are you guys hoping for a position, or you just want one person in DPP to be the person for outreach for childcare? What is your thoughts?
At this stage, that would be my responsibility to work with DPP to design something. So we've had some very preliminary conversations at this point. As you know, the city process for permitting is very extensive, especially for childcare, because there's other considerations that do have to be made. And it's a very difficult process to navigate. So right now we're collecting data from childcare providers on what that difficulty was, what some of the holdups were, and how long that process takes. And then I'll be meeting with DPP to see what type of programming or educational information we can provide to help streamline that.
Yeah, I would like to see exactly how you guys suggest to improve that, because for our childcare centers, specifically in my district, when we had the Kapolei villages open up, they are receiving federal funding, and because the permit wasn't ready, we were having our funding cut because of that. So I'd like to hear what the solutions are, how we can help, because that's for real. I mean, these childcare centers are depending on funding that we're not in charge of, but we're the ones that are holding up the process.
Yeah.
Next, how many family assessment centers do you have? You mentioned Haula Wahiwa.
I believe we have 5 total.
Where
So
are the
there's
other ones?
For the ones we're co-locating services?
No,
Or
so,
total?
just total family assessment centers.
I believe the city has 5 family assessment centers. So Waikiki Vista, 4. So Hau'ula, Wahiwa, Waikiki Vista. There's 3? Sorry, I can't recall the 4th one, but we can get that information to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I haven't heard of the family assessment centers. I must not have any in my district, but it seems like it's good for the community. So is that one of you guys' initiatives to expand the assessment centers?
Oh, okay, so Director Kraki said Mo'ili'ili is the 4th one, and 2 of them are run by service providers. So Family Promise, Corazon, and Catholic Charities.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for us to know, maybe if you guys could include that. I mean, I wasn't
Yeah.
aware that there was some.
Can do.
I do think that your survey that you did for the families, of course, I agree with all the data that you've presented, but again, 600 families is not a big subsection of people to get information from. Will this survey be ongoing so that more people will participate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope we can get it way up over 1,000. I mean, I think we need to have a better cross-section. We have 1 million people on this island. I'd like to know more information. I'm glad that you're going off of data. I think my main thought for you, and I appreciate your presentation, you did a great job, is that we really have to focus in on the 13 initiatives that have been given for your office so that we're getting that done. Because one of them, of the initiatives, number 11, states that you guys are going to work with all city vendors so that they have a childcare policy implemented. I don't know if that's been done, but that wasn't shared in the plan. So I think, one, putting more of the collaboration points would be good in this plan, letting us know what weight the state is carrying versus you guys, because they have early, Office of Early Learning there, and they have some of the same initiatives. Then as well, when you cross with the other departments, us understanding like where that crosses, because I think as council members, we want to make sure that your efforts are sustainable, that you guys aren't spread too thin, because we can make bigger impacts if we have 1 or 2 things rather than 10 things that we're kind of doing mediocre. We want to do 1 or 2 things really good. I'm excited about the partnership you guys have to build the 2 centers. That's awesome. Honestly, the best thing we have to offer to anybody is city land. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing people can't get, right? So I think that part of your whole presentation is what stood out to me. So great job. Council members, any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Let's move on to agenda item number 8. And we want to welcome Council Chair Waters for joining us. This is an update on the inventory and status of vacant county-owned properties. Members of the Department of Housing and Land Management will be providing us with a brief presentation. Oh, clerks, are there any in-person or online testifiers for agenda item number 7, the early learning presentation?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move forward with Department of Housing and Land Management. We do have a copy of their presentation as well as some data inventory. Mayor's Message 144. For your information, both communications are available online. Mayor's Message 69 and Mayor's Message 144. With us, we have Kevin Auger, Director Designee for Department of Housing and Land Management, as well as Kira Chuchum, Chief Data Officer, Mayor's Office. Please proceed.
Great, thank you. Aloha, Housing Committee Chair, Tupola, and committee members. I'm Kevin Auger. I'm the Director Designated of the Department of Housing and Land Management. And thank you for the opportunity to provide this informational briefing today. The Department of Housing and Land Management was reorganized into the Department of Land Management was reorganized into the Department of Housing and Land Management in May of this year. Among the powers, duties, and functions of the department pursuant to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu, Section 6-18B, is that the director shall prepare and maintain a perpetual inventory of city real property interests, including lands owned, leased, rented, or controlled by the city. Prior to the reorganization of the Department of Housing and Land Management, Chair Waters addressed a letter to Department of Land Management Director Designate Catherine Tashner dated April 8th, 2025, requesting an updated list of city-owned properties. Managing Director Formby responded to Chair Waters' request via Mayor Message 69 on April 29th, 2025. In his message, Managing Director Formby explained that the city responsibility for city's properties were decentralized in 1998, following the disbandment of the former Department of Housing and Community Development. One of the goals of reorganizing the Department of Housing and Land Management was to aggregate affordable housing programs and properties into the department for centralized reporting consistent with the charter. Currently, the inventory of city-owned properties is maintained primarily on the city CCHIRP's platform and other platforms. Unfortunately, those platforms lack a user-friendly interface for sorting data for review and reporting. However, since the council funded an assistant in the creation of a chief data officer position for the city, Chief Data Officer Kara Chuchum has assembled a work group that includes the Department of Housing and Land Management, the Department of Information Technology, and Budget Fiscal Services to aggregate and develop a meaningful database of all city-owned properties. Chief Data Officer Chuchum and Department of Technology Director Brian McKee.
Director Designee, 1 second, please. I just wanted to designate Chair Waters as a member of the committee, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Certainly. Chief Data Officer Chuchum and Department of Information Technology Director Brian McKee have been working together to aggregate and update data from various departments, which is distinctive and incomplete in its existing format, to create a comprehensive database as required by charter. With the assistance of Chief Data Officer Chuchum, the required inventory will be maintained in the Department of Housing and Land Management. In summary, the department is working in good faith on what we agree is a necessary database for both council and the administration, and will continue to update council as we make improvements. At this time, if you approve, I'd like to turn over the podium to Chief Data Officer Chuchum, who can provide a brief presentation on these ongoing efforts.
Yes, that'd be great. I've met with her before. She's awesome. So let's hear it.
Okay. Aloha, Chair Tupola, and aloha council members. I think so, Chair Waters, Councilmember Okamoto and Nishimoto. I think we just lost Councilmember Toba, but that's okay. So what I wanted to share with you today is something that actually every one of you actually had a hand in getting us closer to getting there. First of all, starting by approving and going after a chief data officer, somebody who actually will focus on the issues of data here for the city and county of Honolulu, which is something that hasn't really been addressed before. So here I am, I'm here, and thanks to you, we also have 2 positions, a data scientist and a data governance analyst. Thanks to the budget being approved through, we got both of them. Actually, I've been recruiting, and I believe as of today, the conditional offers are going out. So we're gonna have 2 resources, data-specific resources that, and you'll see in the next few slides, they're gonna be actively involved with me as well as with DIT in coming up with a solution. On top of that, I think you also approved the budget for some software licensing for data tools, data integration tools. Those are gonna be crucial to us being able to develop a solution that actually is gonna be maintainable and viable for the longer term, not only a one-time only solution. So I think if you, Justin, so what you have here is just a very simple blurb of why is it, and I think Director Designate Auger had mentioned before about there's so many different systems that the data is what I call lives in data jail, meaning that we can't easily access any of that data unless you have a specific login to that application. So whether it's the CHIRPS, our ERP system, or whether it's the asset management system or the real property tax application, which, by the way, is not even one of our applications. It's a vendor, a site that we use. So there's a lot of different things that we are somehow, over the years, we've got these disparate data sources, and we're trying to pull it all together, and it's just not a viable solution for the long term. And there's no way to update if we find something that's amiss. Oh, gotta go back into the application to figure out what's wrong. So the solution that I'm proposing is essentially to build something that it will be able to bring things together. So I'm using this property data inventory as our first use case for our central data repository. Yeah, some people call it a data warehouse, some people call it a data lake house. It doesn't matter. For us, it's a place where we can bring our data together from all the various data, the applications and systems, including external sources, so we can bring it together for us to use. Now, when I say for us to use, it means that it'll be in a searchable database. We'll set it up, and with DIT's help, we'll create a user interface that's friendly, easy to use, hopefully be mobile, web-enabled, and not something that requires you to have to be tied to your computer at your desk to be able to look at a dashboard. So this is something that we're trying to do, and I know that it's probably going to be an eye chart. The next one, if you wouldn't mind, Justin. So what I come up with is a conceptual design for this central repository. And the first use case being for the property data inventory, we can essentially use it for anything else as well. But what we have here is essentially bringing together all these different data sources. So whether the data sources are from our internal in-house applications like our ERP system, which is what was referenced to before, called CHIRPS. We'll also be able to bring in the real property tax information, as well as on any of the other kind of in-house developed applications that we have here for the city and county. On the other hand, we can also bring in all the mapping data, the GIS layers that DPP has, for example, or even the real property folks also have GIS, geolocation, maps of all kinds of sorts. Many departments, we've got DFM, we've got DDC, we've got so many departments that have a piece of all this information. So right now, DHLM itself doesn't really have much data. The data that's going to be sourced is actually from all the various other departments and other systems and also other providers. But this will be a first opportunity where we'll give DHLM an opportunity to actually manage their own data, or meaning have data that they can manage. On top of that, we also have other sources that are state sources. So the Bureau of Conveyances has data that we are only using it in paper form. So there's an opportunity where we can make a direct connection to their databases and source that data directly into our central repository. So this is huge, and we can also touch on any other data sources. There's whole other offline data sources that we can probably spin up to automatically connect with the system too. So the software resources in terms of funding that you've provided, and thanks to you, we're now going to be able to bring in all these data sources together using that data integration software. So in terms of, besides the data sources, there's a whole data staging area that we're going to be building out, which means not only bringing those sources together, but cleaning up the data. One of the things that we have not done here is pay attention to the care and feeding of the data that we use for our day-to-day operations. So this will be an opportunity for us to do what I call profiling the data so we can see what state it's in. We're going to fix it before it actually enters into our data repository. So this is an opportunity for us to also implement any other business rules that we'd like to include as well. So there's some data validation that's got to happen. This is one of the first things that we're going to be doing to data that's coming into our systems, right? So this is an opportunity for us to really start taking care of the data that we're using. On top of that, all of this data, once we have DHLM cleaning up the data and pulling it together, we'll also be loading that data into the central repository. So from there, we can actually use tools like Power BI, which is a data visualization tool. We can build interfaces, user interfaces. You'll be able to pull up, we probably set up a website where you can actually go and look at the dashboards. It'll be at your fingertips. So as soon as I'm hoping that we can make the data updates as real time as possible. So as the transactions come in or whatever, it would start living in the data repository, and you'll be able to see at your fingertips. You should be able to pull up a dashboard to look at what's going on, or to pull up the maps to see where these properties are, search for the properties, and to find out the appropriate maps that is associated where that property is located. And probably all the details behind each of those properties, to the extent that we can pull together, you'll have access to that as well. So this is something that we haven't had before, and I'm hoping that by building this, they will keep continuously be updated. And that's pretty much it. Now, if you could go to the, and I have like a little timeline. I know it looks like pretty extensive, but essentially we're just talking about taking things from ideation, there's a discovery, resource alignment, setting up the infrastructure, and then doing the development part, and finally delivering on operationalizing it. So end to end, I know I actually started on this, I think for the first time I mentioned it when I met, I think, each one of you, and talked about kind of my ideas and strategy, things I've been thinking of. So I did mention that we do not have this type of functionality, and this is the first time we're going to actually get a chance to do it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chucham. We appreciate your work. Council members are going to open up for questions either for Director Designee or for Ms. Chucham regarding the data that she just shared. All right, we'll start with Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. I first want to start off by thanking you guys for taking this charter amendment seriously. The charter mandated back in 2017, at least 2017, that DLM and now DHLM have a list of the properties. So the fact that you folks are now doing it is awesome. So thank you. And I also want to just acknowledge, I understand you inherited this problem. Your predecessors didn't do it. So thank you for that. And I do understand that the work that you're doing will have a huge impact on the city. It'll allow all of us to do our job better. And I really believe that if we have an inventory, we could actually see, what kind of revenue we can generate from city-owned property so that we don't have to raise taxes. What kind of inventory we have can help us build more affordable housing. And that's really what prompted me to ask for that list. I belong to a cohort with the National Association of Counties, NACO, and they asked us to look at city-owned properties, because that's what other cities in the United States are doing, and leveraging these city-owned properties to build affordable housing. And it was pretty clear that we don't have that list, which was just amazing to me that we didn't have that. So I did my best to look at what properties we had, and we identified a few, a couple that I thought we owned, but we don't, and a couple that I found that I didn't know that we owned, but we do. So that's really where this is coming from, and I think we're all on the same page there that it's super important to do. But, I had my staff just go on the Bureau of Conveyance's website, and we found at least 250 properties. So yes, I was hoping to get an update. I appreciate the timeline that you set out for us. And it sounds like once you're completed, this thing is going to be awesome. I am a little concerned it's going to take a long time. The target date to go live would be May 2026. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Oops, yes.
Yeah.
Well, if everything falls in line, including the procurement part and everything, I think so I've working with our DIT partners, and we agreed on being able to deliver as early as possible. So I think May, and if we can deliver sooner, and if you'd like to see the prototype as we're developing it, you're more than welcome to. We can bring you updates to say this is where we're at as well. But I think May is very doable. So from a data perspective, developing data is, we can move a lot faster than doing an application programming. So it's not building, it's pulling together a platform.
Yeah.
Not necessarily building a specific system.
But I'd imagine you got to get the data first and input it into the system that you're creating.
Yes.
So can you give us an update on how much data you got? I mean, just for the Department of Housing and Land Management, you got to have a list of
Right.
properties that are in that department, right? That's
Yes.
what I was hoping to get. And as soon as possible would be great, but I know you have DHLM, Budget and Fiscal Services, Department of Permanent Planning, Department of Customer Services, DDC, OER, DIT, MDO. How's that going, collecting the lists from the other departments?
Well, first of all, we're identifying mostly the electronic sources, right? The people who, departments have databases or data sources already. So the beauty of this data integration platform that we're pulling together, it doesn't care whether it's a spreadsheet, it's a database, what type of database, an application. So for example, DPP, we just launched HNL Build. The back end of that is Clarity, and the real back end is Salesforce. So be able to tap into that data and draw that data into the central repository, as well as tapping into IAS World, which is the real property tax system, which is an off-site vendor, and we'll be able to bring that in as well. So the automation piece of this is gonna make us move a lot faster. And if you're interested to see like, hey, how many of X, Y, or whatever we have, I can share as we bring the data in to see like, is it about 1 million records or whatever? So we've got different pieces of data in different systems. So on the real property side, which is actually where they create the TMKs, for example. Then we have DPP who managing the parcels and doing the zoning and what have you. And then we have, I don't know, we can go on. And then on the budget, the BFS side, which is essentially what's in CHIRPS, the ERP system, that's where like all the kind of the assets are partially. So the short answer to your question is essentially we're gonna try to migrate as much of this data in as possible, as quickly as possible. But the Bureau of Conveyances, that's the one thing that I picked as, wait a minute, that we're sourcing the data, but we only get hard copies from them. It's like, I'm going to talk to our partners on the state side, DLNR, to say, hey, you got a database over there, let me tap into it. So if I need some help connecting with the powers that be over there, I might have to reach out to get that.
No, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate your conceptual design. It sounds like a lot of gobbledygook goes into this machine and it comes out perfect. But I mean, I'm simplifying it.
Yes.
But I guess to be more specific, I understand that each department uses a different system, and you're going to have to create a new system that will interpret each department's data and put it into one clear, understandable place. But in the meantime, wouldn't it be easy just to ask each department, hey, give me an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yes, please.
And say, boom, and then you compile it, because ultimately, I think you might have to end up doing that to cross-check with when you get what do you call that? Software that's going to interpret HERPs and put it into the new software. Don't you want to double check that with like a list that's compiled by each department?
Yes, we're going to have to triple check everything. That's why in the concept diagram, there's the piece that says data validation. That's where we're going to be triple checking everything.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, all this data is living in too many places, and some of that data is not necessarily matching. So some of that, the data checking, this is something that's very new to us here in the city and county. We don't do our fair amount, actually any data integrity checks or data validation. So I'm going to have to do that in order, and yes, I will be comparing all kinds of sources, including paper. Now, we're going to need to validate a lot of these sources because they're not necessarily one-to-one when you're comparing even like what DPP has versus what a real property tax has. So I think, so we're gonna move as quickly as possible, but yes, I can assure you that that's actually what data people do, is basically be the data auditors.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, and I appreciate that. And, May 2026, that doesn't give some of us much time, right, as far as our terms and the mayor's term. So to the extent that we could get even a crude list would be super helpful. And I've challenged each council members before, and I'll say it again, that each council member should identify city-owned properties within their district that we could possibly build affordable housing on. And Kevin, I know you've told us that you wanted to work on the properties that we already have in the queue and get them out, which I think is a great idea. And I don't mean to give you more work, but ultimately we want to build more affordable housing, and we need to know this inventory as quick as possible.
Yeah, Chair Waters, we could not agree more. In going back and reviewing the files, et cetera, I saw your March 9th, 2022 a letter to your fellow council members asking them to review a list of parcels in their districts.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And the administration and the council's desires around leveraging affordable housing could not be more aligned. When I came into the role as the director for housing in November, that was one of the first things that we jumped on, was identifying parcels in your districts, in council members' districts, that would be available for the development of affordable housing. And it is now a cornerstone of our strategy for addressing affordable housing in the county. And that started with this. So it's, we recognize that it'll take a little bit more time to identify more. There are well over 2,000 assets of property in the city, and some of those are remnant roads, and some of them are large transactions that we can develop on. But we've identified, as we mentioned in our mayor's messages 5 and 25 on January 15th and February 11th this year, we have identified 11 properties. We worked with the governor's office to allow the city to issue requests for qualification seeking development partners for those properties. We've issued our 8th will go out next week. We've selected 7 development partners. We have 2 more that will go out before the end of the year. And we will be negotiating development contracts and ground leases on all of those. That's going to take us right through the first quarter. We also have the Center for Public Enterprise coming out in October to assist the city in developing alternative ways to finance those developments so they're not fully dependent on low-income housing tax credits. And we just got their schedule, so we hope to reach out to council members and make certain that we can bring them around and introduce them to you as well so you can be apprised of what we're doing. So it's kind of a three-step process. We've identified, we've got them out into the market, we've identified development partners. Now we'll begin negotiating contracts. We'll be seeking ways to finance those projects, and hopefully by the time that CARE is done in May, we'll be ready to rinse and repeat with round 2. So that's the goal.
I appreciate that very much, and I think that once you get through these parcels, you'll know the recipe, you'll have it down, so that when the council members identify parcels in our districts, we'll be able to work on that. But in the meantime, though, if we could get at least an update on what parcels you got, right? I mean, I'm happy to work with you folks too. Like I said, we went and looked at the Bureau of Conveyances. We've identified 250 of them.
Right.
We just got to figure out how we can put it into a readable format.
Happy to continue to work on that together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Tupola. So this question is for maybe Ms. Chuchom as it relates to the Consolidated Data Repository. You mentioned that you have to wait to collect all this data. Is it going to be different from the data that the Budget and Fiscal Services has? Because if we are taxing and assessing every single parcel or property, shouldn't we already have that information within BFS?
Some of that data is in BFS, in the real properties tax side, but then we also know that there are other properties that are not taxed. So that's why we're pulling all these data sources together to see what else we're missing. Because we don't have one complete set of data anywhere. So we have it, like, let's say out of 100 possible, we have maybe 90 over here, 80 over there, or whatever, and then you would think that maybe the 80 and the 90, that they kind of match, but sometimes they're off. So we need to essentially bring all the data together. So when you see in the diagram, the consolidated one, that's actually the one in the bottom left side. That's where we'll be able to see everything pulled together. And we'll do a fair amount of cleansing, a data cleansing at that point. But that will be the first opportunity where we can actually share earlier than the May timeframe some of what, some of the early numbers.
Okay,
so we might be able to give you some of that.
Okay, thank you. Also, in the last, I believe, council meeting, I know that our committee chair and our council vice chair, Tupola, asked about this particular list that we're talking about right now, and Director Designate Alger mentioned that the list was provided when the housing plan was provided. And so then what is the difference then, that what we are anticipating and what was provided?
Thank you for the question, council member. So the list that we're currently working on was included in the strategic plan that we presented in January. And it was also presented on January 15th and February 11th.
Okay, so it was presented twice, and it includes the list?
Yeah, sure. Of the ones that we're currently working on, that was Mayor's Message 5 and Mayor's Message 25.
Okay.
I'm happy to send those to you if you like.
That's the 11 properties?
Yes.
I see. Okay, so it includes that list. Oh, so this repository will include that list, but it's not the full list of everything that you're trying to consolidate.
It's the list of properties that we've currently identified that are suitable for development for affordable housing, and that we plan on rolling out and have been issuing requests for qualifications seeking development partners.
Okay. Thank you for stating that. Thank you, Chair.
Yep, no problem. Councilmember Okimoto, questions?
Really, really quick one, Chair, if that's okay. Just to follow up, I'm a simple-minded person, and I'm trying to visualize the data. Your brain probably is much more complex than mine, and so in my mind, is it possible or simpler just to have someone look up the query for, you mentioned the TMKs, to see what properties we have in the tax system and identify the parcels that way, and then just have a list? I know that Director Designate has mentioned the 11 properties that we were introduced to, but Chair Waters has said that in his office they were able to identify over 200 of them. So for me, I would like to see, like this list of all the properties, not just the 11, and is that something that is able to get done quicker than having to go through this process?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different competing and parallel efforts. The first is just a total list of all city-owned properties. And that's what we're responsible for under charter. And that, to my understanding, that there's well over 2,000 city properties. And then there is a desire to be able to filter those properties so that we can determine, for instance, show me in Councilmember Okamoto's district, vacant property on city land that's over a quarter of an acre. So we can get a list and determine whether or not, and then take a look to see if those properties would be available for development.
So from your initial, I guess, searching of this 11 properties.
Yeah, so we came up with 11. That was, the properties that we've identified would support more than 2,500 units of affordable housing. That's more than we have the capacity to finance right now. So together with that, we need to find alternative sources of financing. Otherwise, folks are just going to stand, to give you a sense of that, that's 5 years worth of low-income housing tax credits. So that inventory people would be standing in line for a while waiting for tax credits to be able to finance and build those projects.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
No problem. I'm just going to read it out loud for everyone. The 11 properties are Kapolei lots 1 through 5, Waianae Transit Center, Royal Kunia, 1615 Alawai, Enna Road, 1424 Pensacola, 820 and 840 Ivalai Center, 130 South Beretania Street, D-Light Bakery, Mililani Park and Ride, and Ivalai Center.
That's correct. Thank you very much for that, Chair.
So I wanted to read that because I've brought this up in my previous comments about the 2 that were chosen in my district, and I'm obviously the Kapolei lots 1 through 5, we just finished the development there, and I think everyone in Kapolei is in favor of developing the other 2 lots that are adjacent to the family courthouse. That won't be a problem. But the one for the Waianae Transit Center, we disagree on that one. So I guess my question is, in regards to these 11, like how you said, we don't have the money to finance all of them, so this is projected, right?
Yeah.
When do we get to discuss whether or not we agree with any of this?
Yeah, so the 2 that are, we want to have a discussion with you, Chair, Committee Chair Tupola, regarding the Waianae Transit Center, and we also want to have further discussions with Councilmember Okamoto regarding the Mililani Mauka project. Those are the last 2 that are remaining. The anticipated date is to get those out hopefully by November or December this year. That was our schedule. And again, the idea, these are requests for qualifications. So we're not putting together a plan and issuing a request for proposals around the plan. We're just simply saying, the city has these properties. What is your best idea with input from council members? And who would be best qualified to address that? So it's not, we don't have a plan for any of them. I think when we spoke after we initially published the list in the strategic plan, we talked about maybe 50 to 70 units of kapuna housing on that site.
So when do we talk? Prior to you guys doing the RFP or before the RFP?
Oh, way before that. So we're working on the ones that we've issued already. Probably a good time to get together would be in October or November before we launch. It's, as Chair Waters mentioned, we're getting to the point now where we've got good basic documentation. We attach an appendix to that documentation that basically talks about the asset that we're seeking development partners for, so we can put that together very quickly. And once we get together with you, if you have an idea of what you'd like to see there, we can say the city has a preference for building this.
Yeah, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but I've taken so many people in the city to so many parcels that are up that I think are good, that will work, and I still haven't had a conversation about these 2. So I look forward to that.
Great.
Because I think that that's like maybe inverse, right? So I think the way you guys are proposing is like, okay, we'll choose the 11, we'll talk with the council members, we'll figure out the plan. My suggestion is not to choose the 11, but ask us which ones people are already interested in.
Councilmember, you've mentioned that several times now when I've been at the podium, and I agree. I've admitted that we
I
made a
just think we
mistake
could
on
move
that.
it faster, that's
Yeah,
all.
Would you like to move it faster?
Well, I'm just saying that those are ones that people in the community are in agreement that housing should go here. It's relevant, or it's,
Sure.
matches the neighborhood. So
Okay.
I'm just suggesting that that might be an inverse way for us to get there. I mean, like Council Chair Waters said, his office is willing to work with you guys. So I'm just suggesting that as we mull over all this data that one day we'll see on May 2026, that there could be some interim plans for us to interject and then move in conjunction together instead of waiting for the data to come
Yeah,
out.
I think we're saying the same thing. I think we're in agreement there. We're currently talking about the 11 that we've identified, and we've gotten, we've issued requests for qualifications for 8 of those as of next week. We had a couple left to go. One of those is in your district. By the time that Chief Data Officer Chichum has completed her work, we'll hopefully be able to identify more. And then once we identify those properties and take a look at them and see what's available for development, then we would absolutely come back to you and have a conversation with you before we did anything.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? No, we want to thank Ms. Chucham. Thank you, Designee Director, for being here. We
pleasure.
appreciate the presentation. We look forward to maybe an interim draft report. So let us know when you guys are ready to present that. Council members, with that being said, I just want to take testimony real fast. Clerks, are there any online or in-person registered testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Any people in the room wishing to testify on this agenda item? Seeing no, mahalo everyone for being here, participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned.